All you really need to know is infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion. And it repeated it. Infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion.
Hi, it's Rob Moore here, and over a year ago I interviewed David Icke for my podcast, The Disruptive Entrepreneur, and this YouTube channel. Content about 5G, the virus, is getting banned all over the place by YouTube. So this excerpt is from an interview more than a year ago where I think you'll find it very interesting, some of the predictions David made about maybe what's happening now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now in case this video gets taken down, and let's go to the clip interview with David Icke.
I was writing a book in 2001, 2002 about the World Trade Center disaster, 9/11, and it was all about how the official narrative it's a joke, frankly. I mean, it's the most ludicrous story, because if that's true, that can't be true. If that's true, that can't be true. None of it fits anyway. And look what 9/11 has justified ever since. When I was writing that book, I thought, you know, if I'm going to take this on, I need to get out there and see this world from another perspective, not in some dream where you wake up and you think, was that a dream? Was that real? But actually where you consciously experience it. Synchronistically, this is what happens when you start expanding your interaction with the field of possibility. I then got invited to go to a Brazilian rainforest and take part in an Ayahuasca week. I could have taken it 4 times, took it twice, had a fantastic experience. And on the second night, particularly, I spent 5 hours having this very clear, took a female form, female voice, as loud as mine is now, and very, very funny. Give me chapter and verse on the fact that this reality we think is so real is just an illusion, that there is no physical, right? And that the world we think we're experiencing outside of us, it's not outside of us at all. It gave me chapter and verse on it, and I had instant, total recall of all of it afterwards. So I came back.
Why was it a fantastic experience? What was fantastic about it?
Because it was rewriting the human perception of the reality we're experiencing. And it was doing it in such a persuasive way that made total sense. And then I came back and I started looking at what I was told. And I realized that, you see, you look at mainstream science, it's a series of disciplines. Not only few of them talk to each other, but a lot of them are in competition with each other for funding and prestige. But when you actually break it down and you connect the dots, especially in the areas of quantum physics, I realized that actually, if you put the dots together, what this voice was telling me in the Brazilian rainforest, in this ayahuasca perceptual state, had already been established, right? And I've gone down this road big time since 2003 when this happened. And everything that I've discovered, every new scientific discovery in the realm of quantum physics, for instance, has further confirmed what I was told that night. Because we live our lives as if this world is solid and is outside of us. Well, quantum physics has shown it's not solid. I mean, we are told that the physical world is made up of atoms. Atoms have no solidity. You know, an atom is a nucleus with electrons flying around it. The distance within an atom between the nucleus and the electrons and, well, let's put it in a simple way. If an atom was the size of a cathedral, the nucleus would be the size of a 10-cent piece. Atoms have no solidity whatsoever, and if you go deep enough into the nucleus and the electrons, they have no solidity either. So we're being told that this physical world, which isn't, is made up of atoms, and atoms have no solidity. How is that possible? It's possible because the world isn't solid. The base form of this reality is exactly, in principle, like a Wi-Fi field. It's waveform information fields, right? This is the quantum field of possibility and probability. The body, as I've been calling it for decades, is a biological computer. In its base state, it too is a waveform information field. What the five senses do is take waveform information, take the ears, that's an obvious one, and they turn it into electrical information, and they communicate that to the brain, and then the brain then decodes that electrical information into holographic and digital information inside the brain, which we experience as a world outside of us. It exists visually, it exists in a small area of the back of the brain that decodes visual reality. Other parts of the brain decode hearing and touch and taste, etc., and smell. And together, the brain fits that together into an experience that appears to be outside of us. You know, the old question, does a falling tree make a noise? Only if you hear it. That sounds weird. What are you talking about? Because of this reason. When a falling tree falls, it doesn't make a noise. What it does is disturb the air. It disturbs the waveform field, which sends out vibrations. Vibrations are picked up by the ears, communicated electrically to the brain, which decodes them into the sound of a tree falling. A tree falling only makes a noise when we hear it. I'm talking to you now, and what I'm communicating to you is a waveform field generated by my vocal cords. And words are not passing between you and me. Waveform frequency fields are passing between you and me. They're picked up by your ears, communicated to your brain electrically, and it decodes those waveform fields into the words that you are hearing. We are living a complete and utter illusion of reality. You know, people say, well, you know, they've got to be physical because you can't walk through the wall. Well, if you are of the right frequency that's different to the wall, yes, you can. I mean, things go through walls. Frequencies go through walls because the frequency that goes through the wall is so different to the frequency of the wall that it can pass through. And when we have a resistance, which we experience in the decoded world of holographic illusion as a physical resistance, that is an electromagnetic resistance at the waveform level of reality. It's all illusion. All this was explained to me over this 5 hours by this voice in Brazil, who actually opened up by saying this. Basically, you're going to be told the nature of reality. But all you really need to know is infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion. And it repeated it. Infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion. The illusion that has stopped us understanding our true nature, which is consciousness, is what creates the division, the chaos, the conflict, the hatred, and stops us being what we truly are, which is incarnate love. That's what we're supposed to be. Not love in the sense of, you know, I saw you down the disco, fancy you, darling, love you, darling, all that stuff. No, it's love in another way. We have so misrepresented what love is. We have to put words in front of it now, like unconditional love and what have you. But it is a state of harmony, a state of being, a state of compassion, a state of empathy. And when we are in that state, there is no disharmony. But when you fall for the illusion of what I call the phantom self, the name of one of my books, where we self-identify who we are with the labels, then the force manipulating human society can play those labels off against each other and create divide and rule and conflict, which is what it does. And through this subdivision of the minutiae of self-identity, it's doing it on an ever greater scale. When you self-identify with being a point of attention within infinite awareness, and I look at you and I know that you are a point of attention within the same awareness, and so are you, and so are you, and so is everybody else, then we view each other in a completely different way. No longer do we need to compete. No longer do we need to manipulate. No longer do we need to trash. No longer do we need to cuss and kick and fight to get to the top of the greasy pole. The greasy pole for what? The greasy pole within this infinitesimal section of time we call a human life, when what we are infinitely is consciousness. And we have to fight each other and punch each other and kick each other to get to the top of a greasy pole in this tiny segment of life, or time we call life. Even time's an illusion, by the way.
But you do have to be somewhere in about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Within the perception of this reality. Yeah. Time exists within the perception of this reality.
Which we created.
When I think it's been created for us. That's another whole interview.
Okay. Yeah.
But when people leave the body in a near-death experience and they go to a point where they become consciousness, a state of awareness, then time as we experience it here does not exist. And if you think about time, people think there's a past and there's a future, but there's only a now. There's only a now moment, and so that's very difficult for people to grasp at first, because they think, well, I've been there and I'm going there. Well, but hold on a minute. When you're thinking of the past, where are you? You're in the now. When you're worrying about the future, where are you? You're in the now. And when what we call the future becomes an experience, it's experienced in the now. There's only the now. So time is an illusion too. But we use time so that we can operate within this reality. But again, it's part of the illusion. It's part of the reality that people think is real, but isn't. And you know, if you kind of think about it, if you are a tiny group of people deep in the shadows who understand the nature of reality, the illusory nature of reality, how people interact with reality, how perceptions of people become their experience, cause and effect, just think of the magnitude of power that gives you over the target population.